Typically, Christmas Eve, I want to be with family, having a big meal, a lot of wine, just being with loved ones. This one was unique in that we were heading out on an op early morning on Christmas. So, Christmas Eve, we spent briefing it with the guys and then slept for a few hours, and 2, 3 in the morning on Christmas Day, launched with the sun still down. So, where I normally would be maybe nursing a hangover on Saturday morning. Instead, I was out with these guys trying to gather some intel related to somebody who had emplaced IEDs a couple weeks prior that unfortunately had killed a couple of our Army route clearance platoon partners.
Wow. So no peace on earth, goodwill toward men for you on this Christmas.
Very little.
Well, spell out the story behind this operation. You refer to it as the Christmas offensive. What's the background, what's the backstory that leads to this operation at 3 in the morning on Christmas Day?
Yeah, on December 12th. So we were a very small group of Marines. The airfield is predominantly run by the Air Force because they're the ones using it, but the headquarters above us was an Army task force. So a handful of Marines falling underneath the Army, and coming with the Army, we had related Army units and enablers helping us in our operations around Bagram Airfield, with our primary objective being preventing or at least minimizing rocket attacks on the airfield. Because when rockets are flying, you inherently can't launch and recover jets. So, as part of those operations around Bagram, we had to rely on a lot of Army route clearance platoon. They're guys who, absolute legends, go out and say, we're looking to be IED magnets and ideally clear routes for people coming behind. And unfortunately, on December 12th, a particularly large IED destroyed a route clearance platoon vehicle and killed two of their soldiers. And we had pretty solid DNA evidence tying us or tying the bomber to that attack. He'd been incarcerated prior, his biometrics had been taken, so we knew who was responsible for it. So a couple of weeks later, we were trying to gather intel on where this guy may be living to ideally hand it off to a higher tier unit who could go and actually do a capture kill type mission. But within our ROE, all we could do was gather the intel and then hand it off to somebody else with different authorities. So that's what brought us to this quote unquote Christmas offensive. It was really a way to infiltrate a village where we thought he might be bedding down overnight. And in the morning, as the sun came up, be in the village when the locals came out, gather intelligence about this guy's whereabouts, and then hopefully pass it off to somebody else. So that's the big picture of what led to us at 2, 3 in the morning on Christmas Day heading out into that village.
Were you able to get any actionable intelligence about the whereabouts of this guy?
We did. It just wasn't acted on. I realized more and more our hands were fully tied over there, and we were essentially put out as bait without the ability to target the people trying to do us harm and sent outside the wire with one arm tied behind our backs.
Christmas 2010, I was in Baghdad, and so it seemed it was things were pretty calm. And then on Christmas Eve, probably around I think it was 2200, 2300. All of a sudden this deluge of rockets and motors just came in. And so all the CRAM guns were going off trying to shoot them down. And this happened all the time while I was there in Iraq. So it wasn't a big deal. You just ran to the bunker. Um, but what stuck out on me from that day was one, obviously it was Christmas Eve, but it just kept going. Usually it would last for maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes and then they would be done. But this went on for all night. The constant barrage on Christmas. So for some reason the insurgents chose Christmas Eve trying to make obviously sending a message to us. And so I just remember sitting in this bunker and with all these meshed bodies in there and the body odor, was really overwhelming, and then just being like, shoot, is this gonna end? Like, what is happening here? And so that was the first time where I was really like concerned because the rockets kept landing and they kept coming in and they were landing near us and you could feel the concussion and within the bunker the dust was falling on your head and and so that was an interesting Christmas Eve. It's just because of that event. So that's my memory of Christmas Eve from Iraq.
The first time I would tell you it was just another day because we were on patrol for Christmas. I will say I remember this. The battalion commander came over the radio station as we were leaving, which is incredibly rare. He was just like, "I want to wish all the units, Merry Christmas and stay safe." So it was another. Now now when I was on the second time, I was not. So we were at a JSS, a Joint Security Station. So it was us, our unit, and it was an Iraqi Army unit at this JSS together. And the way they had it set up was we had four line platoons, and when one platoon, you had one platoon, I'm sorry, you had two platoons that were on patrol. So one platoon would patrol like during the day, the other patrol would patrol at night, or vice versa. One patrol, but they would do it for 6 hours, and the next 6 hours, another platoon. And then you had one platoon that was doing security on the JSS. They were manning the posts, the watchtowers. And then you had one platoon that was doing what we call refit. They were fixing their vehicles, they were relaxing, they were catching up, you got 2 days, of that refit. So we were on refit on Christmas. And so what our platoon sergeant did was a pseudo secret Santa. Everybody in the platoon got leading up to it. You picked a name and you bought somebody. And Amazon. I say this in jest, but it's true. We kept Amazon in business because every day almost you saw pallets of people who ordered stuff from Amazon, pallets on pallets of Amazon stuff. It was crazy in Iraq, but I had gifts for people, and I got gifts myself, and we had a really big dinner. The first sergeant organized that, a really big dinner in the chow hall, and I mean the cooks were top notch. The cooks barbecued that day. I remember like it was yesterday. We had barbecue chicken, and mashed potatoes and corn on the cob. It was actually very comparable to being at home for a family dinner. The cook they made a huge cake for us. Um, it was great, and I remember because we were eating while the guys were on patrol. It just came back. It was a easy patrol day. No one was injured or hurt. I say easy meaning no one was injured or hurt. And so that it made it bearable. It absolutely made it bearable. And the same thing happened for Thanksgiving. We actually had a football game in our JSS for Thanksgiving. Um, Everybody participated. The CO, the first sergeant, everybody participated in the big, huge football game we had. And it was different. It obviously wasn't at home watching my Chiefs play, but it made it definitely worthwhile, bearable. Because everybody, like I said, everybody enjoyed it and we had fun. So yeah, the two main holidays where you probably miss your family the most, Thanksgiving and Christmas. They At least my second time, our command staff did everything humanly possible to make it so we enjoyed those two times.
I was like super lonely, because like you were thinking, you're like, wow, like Christmas is great. I got a Santa hat and we're all like friends and we're comrades. We're a group of people. We spent this time together. And then like, you're like, well, I don't want to be here right now. Like I want to be back home with my wife. I was newly married at the time. I mean, I was super young. My first deployment, I was 19. And, I was just like, I just want to be home with my family. It was first time really away for that amount of time. So yeah, Christmases were kind of tough sometimes, but at the flip side of that though, some of those days just kind of felt like every other day. We had some trees. I made a tree out of our out of one of our antennas one time, one of our satellite antennas that I had, and I pulled it out of the bag and everything, and I made trees with it, and I would put like gear tags on it and have everybody sign their name and stuff, or like somehow some way we would get a Christmas tree given to us or shipped out to us. We would decorate that and the silly things. It was like a second family, it really was.
Amidst all of that craziness and the rockets and IEDs and the tempo. that we took an opportunity to just celebrate, what is a very important holiday. On Christmas, I remember Christmas Eve, and I remember, because we worked all through it, right? And I remember on base they held a Christmas Eve service, and I was working up until like maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes prior to it, and I remember telling my number two, I said, "Hey, I'm going to step out and go to church service." I remember just walking by myself over there and sitting in the crowd and enjoying Christmas Eve service. And it was rather surreal, to be honest with you. But it was nice, and I that was important. I wanted to at least enjoy Christmas Eve service. And then, just as soon as it finished, we walked back, and it's like back to the war. I was the commander of the unit of the OSI detachment at Kirkuk, Iraq. And I came on board, and I was on the heels of two of our agents who had been killed uh, by a roadside bomb. And it was probably about less than a year, give or take, before I got there, but it was still very fresh. It was a tough time because, at that point there had been, we went through this stage of where things had calmed a little bit, but then it was really just up north. It was getting very rowdy, to say the least. We were just having attacks like at least every other day, lots of roadside bombs. We were approaching Christmas this was December 2008, and um, what I wanted to do is I wanted to use Christmas as a liaison event. We wanted to be able to bring some in and actually hold a little event on Kirkuk Air Base. Now, to bring any Iraqis in was a big deal. Like it just didn't happen. I mean, we were locked down, and with the guards all around, and weapon systems ready to go. So, but because of my unit, and we had a lot of leeway. I literally, as a commander of the team, it was my discretion. And so if we wanted to bring Iraqis on, it was not a difficult thing. We held this liaison event as a holiday event. And so we invited key um, Iraqi police and other Iraqi leaders that we had been working with for, in many cases, years. We invited them on base, and we provided all the food. It was a very festive time. It was an opportunity for us to just relax, laugh, have some fun. And so funny thing about that though is I had these aspirations of we're gonna one of the nicer restaurants in Kirkuk City, we're gonna order food from. And we did that, right? So we got all these main dishes that were very common, but again, in a nice restaurant in Kirkuk City. So we order all this food. So they all show up and they see the food. And like we as Americans, we're excited, like, oh, this is some good food here. They were disappointed, and they didn't say it right out, but they're like, "Where's the pizza? Where are the wings?" So it's
Yeah.
funny because on the base, like on this fob, right? They would have, some like they would have like a small Pizza Hut, and it would have like some wings and things, and these were just these little pop-up restaurants that were put on the fobs through like AFES or some other entity,
All right.
and that was very popular with the Iraqis. Like they loved it, and so they had this vision of coming there for this big event, and they were going to be eating pizza and wings and American food. So and this was a big deal, right? This was as much as it was fun, it was also a liaison event. And so you have to put on, a good show. So I quickly pivoted and I said, "Oh yes, the American food is coming. We're sending someone over right now to pick it up." And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's good." So I quickly, and I always kept a little bit of cash on me, and I sent one of my team members, and they went over there and they got a bunch of pizzas and wings and all of that, and everybody was happy.